Thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to kind of go through, there's a packet. We're going to go through this a little bit before we dive into guitar. But these are kind of, we just titled it Vision and Expectations. So when you audition here, these are the kind of the things we're looking at, whether that's in students or in our main service. And they're they're applied appropriately depending on which venue you're auditioning for. But just to summarize it, it really talks about how we're here to serve God with our musical abilities, so we want to offer him the best on like when we're practicing and when we're rehearsing and then when we're worshiping together. And what the point of this seminar, we're going to break down the lead guitar role, but kind of what it's like in this style. And the style is called Christian Contemporary Music. And just for short, we'll call it CCM. And the bands that at least influence us here at Rocky Peak, and you guys are super familiar since you've been playing already, it's like Bethel, Elevation, and Hillsong United. So we're going to sort of pursue these tones together and then how to get these parts down, put them in, get them under our finger. But if you just look at this first document, on the third paragraph, it says this: as a unified team, we prepare with precision and anticipate flexibility to serve our church effectively, right? So whenever we're practicing, we use Planning Center to listen to the tracks, and then we can use playback to solo some of those tracks to figure, this is how we can prepare, these are the parts. But flexibility, because, whenever we come here, we don't always play like the record. Mm-hmm. We'll change the arrangements. Oh, let's do another bridge here, or let's kind of give more energy in this verse. So we prepare with the resources that are kind of handed to us, but we're like open for how the worship leader wants to change the dynamics. So we kind of follow along with that. And then the next thing says this: learning and growing in our understanding of each song's form, chords, and dynamics so we can perform our parts with confidence. As we're kind of growing as like lead guitar players, worship leaders, and in this style, we're going to get used to the form of the songs. Like, we know that these songs mostly start with like high energy or low energy, but then it builds. There's always like this big anticipated build. Right. So we'll sort of master those things, and also kind of the tone and the kind of the way that lead guitar is played in this style. So that's just a simple overview. And one of our expectations here is like, we want you guys to play like the record, right? So we want to break that down, what that means to play like the record. Mm-hmm. So if you go to the second page of this thing.
Yeah. Page 2. We'll read it together, and we'll just read it like kind of like just word for word. What it means to play like the record. This means coming prepared to rehearsal. 1, knowing the songs as arranged in the official reference tracks provided through Planning Center and playback. And 2, having mastered dynamics and tones to ensure a unified CCM style across all worship services. Again, like these reference tracks that we're talking about, right? Like the tutorial videos you'll see, playback, Planning Center. It's all just to give you guys the tools to be able to execute those things on the weekend. And so it's like trying to eliminate any guesswork for you guys, to like, what am I supposed to play? Like, am I going to play like just a G chord? It's so that you guys can come prepared for that. And so that we can be unified as a team. And what I love is this question that like, what does it not mean? And it's not being a robot. And it does not mean that we are not being creative, and I think like sometimes when we're like, we're gonna learn this thing like the track or the song, there's a part of us is like, but like, what if I could make something better, And it's funny, when we were preparing for this, I was thinking about like the process of what these guitar players are doing for these songs, and a lot of times they're going into a studio and like writing the song and writing the part for this, this piece of music, and like, they're trying to figure out the perfect thing for the perfect moment in these songs. And so they're also taking out that work for us, where we can like, they chose like that this is gonna fit right in this song. And so learning the part's exactly like the track is the goal. And sometimes like, we're different in how we play together as a band. And so like, yeah, if we go back to the bridge or if we go back to a big chorus, it's like, well, how can I like adapt and how can I like change what I'm playing to like serve the moment that we're creating together. So there's so much room for creativity in that. And what I love is like, me and Christian have been playing rugby for a long time, and like we play so differently when we approach the weekend, but it's unified in like knowing the song and knowing the parts of the music to where like it's unified, even though we will generally play differently than each other. But yeah. Ray, talk to us a little bit about the ultimate goal section of this.
Yeah, so like this says, like the ultimate goal is unity. So in order to achieve unity, we need to do three things. Commit to the overall vision. And that's kind of what we're talking about right now. It's like, here is the style that this genre is asking for, like lead guitar, with these parts, with these tones. So when we're listening to the reference track and we're mastering these things, we're going to be unified as a band. Like if we all are listening to the same reference, which we are, like the drummer, the bass player, the keys player, like we're all listening to the same reference. So everyone's kind of expecting like your role to play what they hear on that. So, and that kind of leads to that second part that says deliver on our role. And it says this: unity comes with trusting each member to prepare and perform their role. Lack of skill, preparation, or memorization creates disunity, forcing adjustments that break trust. So, like I was just saying, we want to play our part, to be in our role, and we're a band and we're a worship band. So like whenever we're locking our roles down, it kind of allows us to worship together freely. And anytime we do want to kind of jump into creativity, this is like that third part, collaborating together, not as individuals. So this is what this says. What we are doing is not a solo sport. It's a team sport. It is vital that when we choose to create, we are doing this in partnership with one another, not to simply improve or modify our individual section. When we choose to create apart from the whole project, it creates frustration and breaks down trust between sections. And, like as lead guitar players, we don't play independently. I mean, one, we play with the whole band, but two, a lot of what we're doing is like it's a melodic instrument. So we're locking in with the keys. So it's like we're considering, hey, how are they playing? What are they playing? How are we complementing each other? So if you kind of just want to, as a lead guitar player, just go off and rip a solo, it's like, well, is that in context? Or, hey, what's kind of the rest of the band doing? Right. It's really considering what we're trying to accomplish together. But, there could be space of like, okay, what if we all kind of commit to collaborating for a part? And then it's going to allow for creativity. And it just leads to this, like, these process right here. It says these 4 bullet points. I'm just going to hit them really quickly. We begin with a shared vision, of course. That's like the CCM style, like following the recording, and then we rely on each other to deliver our role in our section. This creates chemistry. I mean, this is a huge thing. Like as a band, locking in does take a long time. Like unless you're playing with the same person again and again and again and again every day, like you'll lock in faster. But we have rotating band members. Right. So like how we're going to lock in, the best way to do that is to follow like the reference track and then deliver on your role. But as we're doing that together, we're going to lock in closer, and it's going to create chemistry. And then this leads to the gift of time, which is the next point. Sometimes in rehearsals, we'll have to replay sections because, hey, that part was right, but this other section is wrong. So let's kind of retouch on this instrument or whatever. So it's eating up our time. But when we all come prepared with the right thing in mind, like we can have rehearsal go smoother and faster, and it leads to that last thing. It says enabling. It enables creativity. So that gift of time leads us to more opportunities for creativity. Learning the parts, dynamics, feel, and tone on an intimate level will allow for creativity, improvisation, collaboration, closer to the parts, dynamics, feel, and tone of the style. and again, just that's kind of where we're headed towards. It's like, how can we play in the style? And we're going to break that down together. But this is the order of how these things are going to like function in anything. Whenever you want to learn in a style, like you're learning in jazz, you want to learn how to comp that in that style, or you want to learn how to play that lick first, so that way you play it in that style. That's exactly how we're approaching, and then we kind of break free. And just before we're gonna go right into like this guitar stuff in a little bit, but I just want to make a distinction between the rhythm section and the melodic section. So as guitar players, the keys, you guys are the melodic section. So you have a lot of freedom, not a whole lot, but you have more freedom than the rhythm section to create melodies and to accompany the voice, which is the most important instrument in this style, because it's leading the congregation. So how are we adding to that? Takes a lot of consideration, but when you learn in the style, you can add more freely. And the rhythmic section is like the strong foundation, so it doesn't have as much freedom to break out. And we're going to talk about ways in lead guitar, like how do we add when there's nothing to add, or like how do we dive into generating these tones and these parts.
Yeah, I mean, and really thinking of like the style of music that we're playing is its own style. I think for me personally, like I came from a blues, rock, and jazz background, and then I met the Lord when I was 18, and then I was like, oh, I want to use my gift for worship team, like I want to join the band. And so I came in and I brought my Line 6 Spider amp to an audition in a room, I think with Jordan and Sarah Badano Martinez at the time, and auditioned with my Spider amp, and that's all I had for effects was this one amp, because normally in blues and jazz and all that kind of stuff, we have an amp and a lot of like some reverb on the amp. And then we're just shredding, like that's like all we're doing. But when it comes to worship music, there's so much more happening. And like when I joined the team, I was like, oh, now I have to like invest in a rig. Like I have to like get like a reverb pedal. Like I get a delay pedal. Like I didn't know I was gonna have to do all that, But then like learning the style, it's like, oh man, like this is like the style of music I want to be playing. Like I think it's like, I mean, it is like the church, like joining the church and like playing for the church. Like I want to serve our church well with the tones that I'm using and the way that I'm playing. And so it's definitely like, I mean, it's a style in itself, in the same way if you're going to learn how to play Stevie Ray Vaughan and like you buy a Strat and you put it in like, the middle and neck pickup, like configuration, like the same way with worship music, it's like, well, there's reverb, there's delay and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's something to just keep in mind is like, oh yeah, this is a style in itself. So yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely carries the style, like knowing the right tones, and we'll get into that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the first page, where it says lead guitarists, their expectations, we're just going to break down what those sentences are together. So it says this for lead guitarists. You shape the song's atmosphere by executing prominent guitar lines. So like, what does that mean? The atmosphere implies tone. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. But executing prominent guitar lines. What does that mean for you guys? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So for me, the obvious answer for that prominent guitar lines is, the main guitar riff in the song, the main lead line. But also in songs that, either don't have a lot going on in them, or songs that do have a lot going on in them. Some Bethel and Elevation stuff, they've got 7 electric guitars and keys, and there's a ton of stuff going on. But I think about that, because obviously as one lead guitar player on the weekend, you can only play so many parts at one time. And so for me, it's thinking about, what's the melody line that sticks out? Kind of what is the listener expecting to hear, and like what's going to be recognizable for the listener, and kind of picking out that line and making that the prominent line.
Yeah, and I think too, like imagine if you didn't, right? So like say we're playing the Blood, and like we all know the Blood, where it's like imagine, we're starting the song, the click starts. Actually, I'll just, like if we were like in it and like
2.
instead,
Intro.
I was
2,
just,
3, 4.
there's like nothing happening anymore, and like just doing swells. We're missing that line that people are expecting. Like your piano player is playing that line too, and so in that song, it's like like if like we need to be playing those prominent lines, and so like finding them, and then like same with like the chorus, right? Like the what I like about that line too, especially, is like where like the singer is singing, like it gets out of the way as the line continues for the vocalist to like cut through. And so like again, like it's just like a purposeful part. And every section has something purposeful to be played, and I think something that I like have learned over the years, like that every section like isn't, there's no section that is lost. Like every section has something that we should or should not be playing. Like there's sections where like we should just be totally out, and so that's just stuff to like, as you learn like the record, it's like, oh, like where are my spots to be playing? But
Yeah, I think another important part about the prominent line, the blood being a good example, is thinking in the context of during a service, we're all leading the congregation in worship. If we're just pedaling G, nobody has any idea what song we're playing, what's coming.
right.
But playing, at least people that, are familiar with the song.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the blood. It kind of helps them kind of prepare themselves for the song, maybe prepare their hearts for the words that they're going to be singing too. So
Totally.
kind of clues them in as to like, hey, this is where we're going now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And honestly, like, not to like say that it's super cool, but like the parts I feel like are so specific in some of these songs that they're really cool to play. Like I love that line that like there's two guitars happening. So like as a guitar player, it's like, do I play both parts? Should I play the first one? Should I do the higher harmony and the keyboard? Like it's like those are like cool things to like collaborate musically on. So like I think this is just like really fun to be able to learn these songs exactly how they are, because there's really cool guitar parts coming out. Like the fact that we're living in the time that rattle exists, and we can like play with a lot of distortion and just big old like big chords and all that. That's just fun time.
You guys just need to look up worship music back in the 2000s, like 2000.
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then listen to that. So
Yeah.
it's a blessing the way music, the Christian music sounds now, for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
When you're thinking about like playing prominent lead lines, how do you choose like what position you're gonna play those lines in? Like, because you can play them up here or sorry, down here, and then up here. You can play them on several different strings, but how do you choose like, this is where I want to play this? How do you make that choice?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, like, more than anything is like playability. Like, is it the easiest on the hands, like to be able to play it? For me, like that chorus line, if I were to go, that's like fine, but I'm like skipping a string, playing it that way, or and so like they all have different timbres, and so for me, like this one sounds the closest, like the record. But what's nice is like I'm like barely moving my hand to achieve that, and so in those moments I'm like, oh, I can actually worship because I'm not focused on like skipping strings, or like if I were to play it on like one string, or like it's like for me, like I like that I can just like focus on worshiping rather than like am I hitting the right string, so that's like kind of how I go about like where am I playing things. But
Yeah, and you don't like that when you're in one position. You don't even need to look down at what you're playing.
right, totally.
You're not even distracted by, oh, I got to come back to this position.
Right.
You're just one position. And like you said, you can just focus on worshiping and let that become kind of second nature. And also, too, the point about, just kind of playing where it's comfortable as well. That I use a lot of times when I'm figuring out a part. It's like probably where it's most comfortable is probably where the original
Right.
guitarist wrote it and played
Totally,
it, because
yeah.
they're probably not going to play it in a way that's more difficult.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, little helpful tool that I've used in figuring out parts. Like, where is this person playing it? And like, oh, you kind of find the spot where, oh, this is the natural place to play it.
Yeah, totally. And like every string sounds different. Like every G on the guitar is like just different in timbre, you know. And so like figuring out those like how it sounds on the record and how it sounds when you're playing it at home, like trying to match those up, I think are really important. Because yeah, I mean, when you're playing on your A and your D string and you're playing things that you should be playing on your B and your E string, it's like, yeah, like that's like completely different. So yeah.
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 Yeah, just a question I thought, like, how do you nail a part down? You know, like, I mean, like, yeah, you can play it in one sort of, like, position, but, like, how do you know when it's like, oh, yeah, this is totally right, I'm going to play this every time or confidently and stuff like that? How do you develop that sort of skill and that knowledge?
Yeah, like I think with, well, I don't. Were you gonna say something, Christian? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, obviously once you figured out the part, there's definitely just, you know, the practice element of it, just the repetition of learning it over and over and over. I've experienced personally though, times where I've thought I've figured out a line properly, and then, you know, maybe as I'm driving to church to come to rehearsal, I'm listening to the song in my car. I'm like, wait a second, there's another note in there.
Yeah.
Or once I get to rehearsal and I'm playing it, and but the part that I'm playing is clashing with what the keys player is playing, if we're maybe doubling the part. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of like trial and error, like actually playing it on the weekend to figure it out and be able to hear like, oh no, this wasn't the right note that I thought I was hearing in it. This note actually fits properly in the context of the song.
I remember I was playing in main service one time, and we were playing All Hail King Jesus, and I heard the line as a. But then the piano player was playing, and so we're in service playing B and C at the same time, which is a minor second, which sounds horrible together. And so like, and I didn't have him in my ears, and so I was just like, all right, I'm just shredding whatever. And I get a text. It might have been from Christian that was like, hey, one of you guys is playing the wrong note. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna modify what I'm playing so that I'm, you know, playing it with the keyboard player. Or I could have asked like, hey, play B instead of C. But yeah, exactly. It's like to be unified with those, you know, with our sectional, you know, with the keys and lead guitar. But I remember feeling like, oh yeah, I had that part down, and then it was like, oh, like I missed one note, and every note matters in this context, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the things you talked about earlier was playing without your effects
Dude,
first, you know,
yes,
and practicing
yes.
without those, yeah.
Yeah, this is something I do because I have a baby at home, and I have a wife at home that's trying to do some work and stuff. And so for me, like, there's a lot of times where like playing loud in my house with, you know, my amp and my pedals is like just not the right time. And then there's other times where I'm working on my skill, and so like I'll just like turn off all of my pedals and like say like for the blood, like. Oh, also, I'm playing through a tube amp right now, and I was thinking, like, have anybody in the room not play with a tube amp before, like before? Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a magical experience. Me and Christian were talking about this. Like, we're bringing our tube amps, like we're doing this. But yeah, so back to what I was talking about, like that line with the blood. If I were to do both notes, being. And I would just sit and just like practice that without any effects and try to sustain every note, make sure that every note's accounted for, because when that's down and then we add all the effects back in, like it's now like down because I have it down in my fingers, and everything starts at your finger and your pick and how you're articulating these things. And so like sometimes I think we lose that because we're thinking about the tone of what we're trying to chase for it, because it's like, oh, the verbs are cool and the delays like with it, but like if in the hands we're not like playing or sustaining them, then like, you know, if I were like, I don't know, like if without the tracks or the pedals, it's like, that's not how it goes. But like if with the delay in the verb, if I was going, there's so much happening that like maybe that's like lost, but like you still kind of hear it. So like for me personally, I think it's really valuable to like, hey, like without any effects, are you able to play these parts with enough sustain? Are you able to play them proficiently without anything else? And then when you start adding the distortions, when you're adding the verb and the delay, like those will come out like with your part rather than like against your part. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, when I started playing lead guitar again like 5 years ago, I would practice with all the delay and the reverb, and it kind of it made me feel like, oh, I'm doing it right. I sound great. And I would turn them off and be like, okay, maybe I'll turn them back on and keep them on, you know? So yeah, like playing guitar, mastering it without the effects is totally, it's just a different level of playing. Yeah.
I find it holds you way more accountable because if you're not holding the strings right, like you'll hear it. And like, I think there's a tendency of like, oh, I don't want to hear that. I'm going to put on more distortion. And it's like, well, actually like figuring out how to play it with your fingers, I think is the right way to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that amp relationship, you know, like, so playing, like, I just thought about this, like, if you're learning it with, like, not plugged into any, like, speaker, right, it sounds a different way than when you plug it into an amp, because, like, oh, the note is making a sound, or there's this little, like, harmonic thing, or what's this hum happening, or something like that, you know? Yeah. I mean, luckily with modelers, you can just add, like, a noise gate or stuff like that, but things like that still happen. The way you play it changes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because if I was, like, not plugged in, and I just wanted to hear it for myself, I could be like really smack it to be able to hear it while I'm playing. Right. But then if I was to do the same articulation,
right,
it's like way too spanky, you know? So you have to really like. And figure out like the right pickup too. So just like there's, you know, everything changes when it's getting harder to recognize the person that's nice. That was good. But no, like I think like everything matters with your tone, and I think so much of tone starts with like playing like the guitar with your fingers, your hands, and the guitar. So
yeah. One of the things, okay, I don't know if we should get into this. I have this on my note, but like voice leading. Do you guys know what voice leading is? Like on the guitar or anything like that? It's basically when you're playing, you know what it is when I describe it to you.
Yes, yeah.
It's like when you're playing one chord or one note from another, it's like how do you get to that next note or the next chord? So like in worship, like when we play, like lead guitar will play an A in the D shape, you know? Right, so exactly. It's like how we're getting from one note to another, right, making that feel like super comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it even like in What a Beautiful Name. Like, if we're just playing the chords and not thinking about voice leading, like we could go. Like it's just like it's like so random, you know. Right. But what I love, the part in the song is doing the. Like they're all like notes that are together, you know, and like every note is leading to the next one.
Right.
And so a lot of these songs have it naturally in some of the parts. Right. I think it's like really important to think about. It's like, oh, again, ease of playing, right? So if like I'm like doing, like all that like couldn't work together, but it's like, well, like it's not staying in a consistent range.
Right.
It's not like the hands are moving a lot more, so I'm focusing a lot more on what I'm playing rather than just worshiping the Lord.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, like here's the next sentence. So like, we shape the atmosphere with like prominent guitar lines, but also by generating the guitar tone by using effects like delay, reverb, overdrive tones that are suitable for the CCM ambient style. So what does that mean? And like you guys are growing up with this. I don't know why I say it like that. Like you're very familiar with the way this style is sounding. It's super atmospheric, very spatial, very open. So, like, what are effects that kind of help achieve this tone?
Yeah, the biggest one is reverb. I think. And I used to think if you could only have one delay or reverb, delay was the one to have. Now with how CCM has shifted, I think reverb is the one that I couldn't live without now.
Right. Yeah.
And then just for atmospheric stuff, just real long trails, washy, low attack, so you're not really hearing, the pick attack. And you can do this stuff, kind of tremolo picking. Or swells, things like that just will carry and kind of create that atmosphere.
What I love too about reverb especially is like you can make a lot of space without playing much, So like if we're just like we want to fill space in a spot that like doesn't have any guitar parts, like it really could just be as simple as doing like that's telling a lot of chordal things without doing really anything other than playing the chords and swelling into them. But the reverb is what like does the magic for that, I think reverb and delay is so much of this music. I remember when I first heard it, it was like, okay, it's like Coldplay, it's like U2, like this is like a Streets Has No Name, like kind of vibe. What is that like? It's like a like that kind of stuff. I think is like it's in everything, Like I'm thinking about like what in my tone is always on, and there's always reverb on, there's always delay on, and like I usually will have an overdrive that's an always transparent drive on to get some breakup in some of these amps. We have the immense blessing to have the Kemper as like an amp that if we don't have an amp modeler on our board, we can run our boards into the Kemper, and that is such a lifesaver because like I love my amp. I love bringing it. Like I haven't used my amp actually in like 6 years, 5 years, something crazy like that, But like the Kemper does such a good job to where like it has those amp-like tones, but like it helps Nick and AG to be able to mix our tones with that, And so like guitar, like the tone always starts with your guitar and the amp, and then when you're adding in like your verbs, like having it sit right with your amp, having the delay sit right with your amp, is always really important.
Yeah. So, what do you guys use for like amp wise? Do you guys use the Kemper, or do you have like a Tonex or a HX Stomp or something like that? What do you use during a weekend or on the week? Kemper.
Yeah, I think everybody here uses the Kemper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And like you guys usually just come and it's dialed in, sort of. Yeah. It reads right. It's a huge blessing because like trying to figure out that relationship between like what's the right pickup, what's the right everything, like the Kemper kind of minimizes that. And it really gives you everything you sort of need. But yeah, that's like the first thing about the lead guitar tone actually is how does it sound clean?
Yeah.
It's all the other stuff like the stereo delay, the stereo reverb, the saturation with the overdrives, all of those matter. But what matters first is like, okay, if I turned everything off, like what is this gonna sound like?
Totally.
And it kind of is like a not thin but kind of more trebly sound with like enough low end, but not like a lot of mids at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think sometimes we think our clean tone has to have like bass in it.
Right.
But like it gets really muddy really fast, and the mix doesn't need it. The bass has the bass frequencies, the keyboard has the bass frequencies. Like we cut more when we do have a little bit more of a high cut in mind, but don't play your clean tone.
Yeah, so this is everything off, essentially. The only thing that's on right now is, the amp modeler, a compressor, and there's a... Yeah, I actually have a treble booster on here as well. Just, that kind of illustrates how much we don't need the low end on the guitar.
Yes.
And that we actually need a little bit more treble to cut through. I mean, that is super clean. I mean, that's middle pickup. But then I have, first stage overdrive. And I have another boost. It's a little fuzzier. And then, delay and reverb. And, this is my kind of normal. So that's my starting point for the weekend. And you can hear how long the delay trails and everything are.
So long that the mic, yeah. I'll kind of just add things one by one, because we use different things to achieve tone. So like, you have an all-in-one. I have pedals. Both do the job. It's just like it really is about like just dialing stuff in. Yeah, like if I were to do like the blood lead line, this is my clean tone. Just super, like not much going on. I use a compressor. So compressor off is compressor. It's sneaky, like it's always on. Like that's a always on pedal for me. It really just squishes that tone again, so that it cuts through mixes. Is like thinking like, okay, we're taking all those frequencies and we're making it. The first stage overdrive for me is my JHS Morning Glory. It's like a blues breaker, kind of transparent. For this line, like when we're in the big section, I'm using the JHS Kilt. That's like my stage 3. And so that kind of sounds... What I like about it is like we're thinking through like those pedals go together. So like when you have pedals, there's like a lot of stacking involved. So like I'm stacking the Morning Glory, which is awesome because it's a very stackable pedal. I have 3 pedals I can do different flavors with. The Kilt being the most frequent that I use. And so like having 2 overdrives is really nice to have, especially if you're just trying to get more gain or distortion out of your amp, because like it's such a clean amp, we're getting more gain and distortion through pedals. And then delay, like synced with the song. I have 2 delays on this delay. It's like a dual. One's quarters, one's dotted eighth, and so. Again, it like has a trail, and then you put it on with the verb. And then my secret sauce pedal for any big section is the octave pedal. I don't think it's necessary for everybody, but for me, it's like just. So let me do it without verb real fast. So without it, it has like its high frequency going on. So then you put that all together. some wrong note in there, but whatever.
It's
you know,
jazzy.
but, yeah, it's everything is jazz.
Yeah,
right?
everything's jazz.
So yeah, that's just kind of how I build the tone. Is like, okay, I'm thinking through like verb, delay, gain stages, the compressor that's always on, and I love having an octave. But
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes when I was trying to figure out tone, like I thought, how can I get one distortion sound and then the next distortion sound and then add more distortion? But it has less to do with distortion and more to do with like saturation. So it's like, how are you combining these like gain stages together instead of like giving it more distortion? Because like the difference between an interlude, like in the blood, right, that da, 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 and like the big section is like a couple buttons, you know. It isn't. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm gonna give it more reverb, I'm gonna give it more delay, here's another gain stage on top of that, and you're gonna pluck more, but the part is essentially the same. It's just kind of like what I'm doing with my tone to make that like guitar line stick out, and that has to do with saturation.
Totally. Something that I've been doing recently with my board is there was times where like I kind of put everything in the middle, so like volume at middle, gain at middle, tone at middle. Something I've been doing instead for clarity is like boosting the volume, getting rid of the gain, like kind of turning the gain down. So like, you know, with the Morning Glory on, this is the kilt with the volume all the way up and the gain at like, what is that, 9 o'clock? So like not super on. It's a lot of distortion happening. And so if I were to switch it, if I were to do like a little bit of volume, a ton of gain. It just has a different, there's a fuzzier part of it where you're losing the articulation. So like your more gain is going to make it a little bit more saturated, but like not clear. And so I think for worship music, like we're wanting some clarity with it. So I just boost the volume and switch it. So I think sometimes we think more gain knob. But I think for me, especially when you're stacking pedals, like having it, and especially because you get this weird hum when you put the gain all the way up, you know? For me, like that is all for clarity, and so like that's usually how I approach like gain staging and stacking.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we. Does anyone have any questions about tone? I just kind of, I don't know. Any questions? You can have questions later if you want, but.
Yeah.
Wait. Dude, say it again.
Oh yeah.
If I don't have a delay pedal where I can tap the delay, how do you recommend like setting it? Because it's gonna be like different for every song and like the tempo changes and stuff.
That's a good question. What would you do in that situation, Christian? I'm curious.
Yeah, I used to have a Memory Man delay, which it was just the knob for the delay time, and I had to get really good at playing and like with my foot, like trying to micro adjust. It was a real pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if you just have, you know, you wanted to just one setting, set it and forget it for the whole set, you know, you probably would have to, you know, turn down the mix, turn down the repeat so it's not as prominent, and make it maybe a little bit more of like a little closer to a slapback delay. So it's just adding a little bit, you know, a little bit of wetness to it, but it's not giving you that ding, 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 you know, those repeats that would normally be 2-tempo. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, it's like really, really quick repeats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is really quick, so like with verb, we'll be like, so like that's it with it really quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that way there's still something there. It's not just bare. But it doesn't have to rely on the tempo.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, like, Yeah, I think ideally it would be like perfect, especially when you're doing like dotted eighth or quarter note like stuff to have it sync to tempo. But if you're in a situation where it's an echo, like I used to have an echo pedal for a while, and then I sold it to get one that had a tap tempo. But I loved it because it sounded like that like slapback echo, and there's still clarity in that. There's still, and especially if your reverb is set right, like you can still kind of get some emulations of that, but yeah, I think like sometimes we think like, oh, I need the gear to do this, and I think like for me when I was starting out, I had no pedals. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just make what I can out of the things that I have, and then as I save up or if I can sell certain pedals to get different ones, like until that moment, I'm gonna give God everything I have with the pedals that I currently possess. So yeah. Because I've had random stuff on my board for like so many years. Like I had the Tube Screamer Mini as like my like go-to for a while. I had the Boss DD20, and that was like my big like reverb or my delay, because it was one that can tap, and then it stored 4 different settings, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. There's 4 songs in a worship set. I can plan it, and so like that was like a big moment for me. But
Is that the one that had the 2 pedals?
yes, yeah. Somebody has it. I don't know who does. I think maybe
Someone has your Boss CD.
No. Somebody has a Boss CD20. I think it's Ryan Latimer has one, and
Okay.
it's like it's awesome. I'm like,
Yeah.
because there's like a setting where like it's like a warp. Let me see. I think this one has it too. Is it this one? Yeah. There you go. Or, trying to remember. I don't know. There's one where it's like a warp where it goes. Woo! I was like, oh, this is sick. But like, whenever using a worship set, never. There's a lot of pedals that I'm like, oh, like would I ever use this in a worship set? And it's usually never. Like, I had a fuzz for a while, and just never really fit into the context of worship music. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions on tone or something that's coming in mind? All right, sweet.
Cool.
Yeah. So that next sentence on this thing. Did you want to say something, Reed?
No.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So that next sentence for like kind of the role of lead guitar says this: when lead parts are absent, you create complementary melodic lines. And I think there are a lot of worship tunes that it's like, wait, where's the lead guitar? Like, what is it? It's not there. So what am I supposed to do if I'm supposed to play like the track? I'm not. I guess I don't play anything.
Right.
But that's actually not what we want your section to do. Like
Yeah.
as lead guitar players, we want you to add like melodic motion. So when there isn't anything in the track, like what are some things you guys would do to add and complement the melodic and atmospheric space?
Yeah.
I feel like the Rocky Peak go-to when there's nothing is just like the straight
Yeah.
wherever my tempo is.
Got it.
It's kind of laying that foundation. That's obviously for like a little bit more, mid or up tempo song. For slower songs that don't have a lot, I'm usually just adding in some swells. Stuff like that. Or just, even like for What a Beautiful Name,
Yes.
the first chorus I don't think has anything, but to use that as an example, like where you would have a real bare first chorus, just real clean, real light. Just kind of let it float.
Yeah.
It's kind of like almost like playing really delicately and letting the delay and the reverb kind of carry it.
Yeah.
I'll often play stuff like that when there's not a lot going on, but you want some sort of movement and some sort of kind of texture in that part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Beautiful Name is a really good example because I was listening to the part today and I was like, oh, what? We do this so different at church. So
Instrumental. 2,
So
3.
this is EG1
4.
solo in this instrumental, nothing happening. EG2 solo, nothing happening. This is happening the whole, like, most of the time
Yeah,
in
the
this
whole
bridge.
song, yeah.
You know, and, you know, if you have the pedals in order to make that sound, you know, the... And, like, this is happening the whole time during the bridge. I'll kind of... Still playing it. Bridge section, like, going into the chorus. It finally goes to a part. But, like, when I think about how we play it at church, a lot of times we're listening to that, like, instrumental line that goes, like, that piano line. And so, like, if you're like, oh, I don't have this big washy verb, something that's great is like, okay, the piano's playing
Bridge.
that, so I'm going
2,
to play that with them.
3, 4.
And then just build with the
Bridge. 2,
song.
3, 4.
You can jump up to the octave.
3, 4.
There's a lot of different ways of going about it, but like we're playing the same notes. It's just like, oh, like I can do lots of different things depending on how it serves the song. So like instead of just playing, you know, you could play the parts that the keyboards are playing. That's a really safe bet. So
Yeah, that's literally the safest bet. I
Yeah.
know for me, like I'm either gonna do what the singer's doing, like oh, how can I make this like nice gentle behind it,
Yeah.
or what's the keyboard doing so I can kind of play behind it. And I think that's what I hear for chorus one, like that part that you were playing.
Yes.
For What a Beautiful Name, I think I hear the keyboard playing that, and I'm like, oh, let me just like double that
Right.
as well, because it feels good to like add that. It kind of like adds to the space, like it lifts the emotion with the tone of that. So yeah,
And it feels appropriate there.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Imagine breaking down a solo in chorus one. You
Right.
know, I was like, no, don't do that.
I know, right? Yeah. Like John Mayer bluesy stuff. Another thing I'll do too is like the Blood's a good example of that too. When we go into the chorus after the bridge, you know, the part that we've established is the. Since we'll be in a huge chorus with the drums smacking, like I'll play more chord-like, and then I'll follow the melody of what the singer is singing, and so I'll kind of play that as an example here. So.
Chorus. 2, 3, 4.
So following that vocal.
Instrumental. 2,
Then you go. Just stuff like that. Like it's like adding to the song, making it a little bit bigger, but it's not the same. So for me, like this is thinking purposefully of like, oh, like how can I make this section bigger, but not get in the way of like doing a random solo or like getting rid of like in the way of the rhythm or anything like that. So I think it's important just to think like, how am I serving the song in this section? But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's an important note that just goes back to, you know, why are we here playing
Totally.
worship? We are here to worship. We are here to lead the congregation into worship. And so a big goal of our playing is to just not be distracting. You know, we want it to serve the song. We want it to fit in. We want it to sound appropriate. And we don't want, you know, to play something right note or wrong note that may pull somebody out of, you know, a real worshipful moment.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, the more that we can become white noise like in the scheme of a worship set, and the more that like we allow space for the Lord to move, like I think is the biggest thing. Like the more that we start making it a distraction of like, oh, this is what I can be playing, or this is like I'm gonna do this cool thing or whatever. A lot of times that shifts the focus from him to us, and I think the more that we can serve the songs that we're playing, ultimately serves him best, is to make him the spotlight always, rather than, oh man, I'm gonna put on 4 overdrives and shred. I think that's something that like is really important to like keep Jesus the focus in your set with the band. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like, hearing those prominent lead guitar parts, like the first thing, and then, like getting the tone down, and then like, what am I adding to complement? Yeah, like soloing all the other instruments, or sorry, not the other instruments, but like if there's 7 lead guitar parts, like sometimes I'll go solo the first one, the second one would be like, okay,
Yeah.
how can I, when there's nothing prominent going on, like what can I do to blend these things? I do think about like, oh yeah, the keys and then the swells, just like you guys are saying, or the atypical, actually the typical, like worship, like chord, like cage chord structures or whatever. It's like you're playing D, but in a different frequency, or actually that's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Like you're playing a D shape, but you're playing a different chord, not D chord.
Right, right.
Kind of like those familiar things.
Yeah.
Like when you're strumming and you're adding rhythm or a big section to a part or something like that.
Yeah, I like to leave those chords for our acoustic guitar players. So like when like that's all, like they're strumming that away, and so like
Right.
if I were to play those two, we'd just be playing the same part.
Right.
And so I'm thinking like sonically, like, well, there's a space for me. Where's the space that would best
Right.
fill? And so like if we're playing in D, like you could play an A shape and move it to the 7th fret, and you're in D. That like is totally out of the way of,
Right.
or you could play it. And all of those ways is like just to expand what is happening sonically, so that every frequency is represented in a good way. So
Right.
yeah.